Hello, welcome to the KState ScorchCast. I am your host, Alex Blackburn. It's good to be back. I know I missed last weekend. That was due to Father's Day. Had a lot going on. A lot going on today too, but figured I'd give you a show since it had been a couple weeks. Got a lot planned here for us because it's been 2 weeks. So we got to go over some NBA draft results, a little bit more CBB news as well, college basketball. Got some Royals news to go over. Newsflash, they're still bad. Got some sporting news, got some current news, got some Blues news, quite a bit of Blues news actually, more than usual. And some Chiefs news, as well as the KU football renovations war to go over. All of that will be covered in this week's ScorchCast. Strap in, sit tight. It's going to be a good one. So, let's get started. Alright, starting off with some college basketball here. Got some draft results over this past Thursday. Not at all what I expected. Grady Dick went about 4 picks later than I thought he would. He went to the Toronto Raptors, which I think is a really good spot for him now, especially now that Nick Nurse is gone. He's going to embrace his role as a shooter there. He complements Fred VanVleet really well, and just adds a good scoring player to their arsenal. I think the Raptors are a decent team. They're obviously not what they were back in 2019 when they won the title, but it's a good team to go to, in my opinion. And congrats to Grady for being a lottery pick. He's going to do great things, I feel like. And you know what? That suit was awesome. I don't care what you say. Oh, it was gaudy. Oh, it was tacky. Blah, blah, blah. Man, he was representing Kansas. There's no place like home, baby. Come on. But moving on, I was baffled that Kobe Brown got selected in the first round. Absolutely baffled. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. Is he a first rounder? He's got some things to work on. I mean, he's a dog. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player that can really get down and dirty if he wants to. He's a great shooter. He scores at will. And he's got a lot of great tools to become a great NBA player. He's slow. He is, pretty heavy for a guard, 250 pounds. But I mean, maybe that's a good thing, because in the NBA, defense doesn't really exist all that much. But it's still a good thing that he's just an absolute dog and can drive the lane at will and create scoring chances. And that's the whole reason Mizzou was good last year, is because they had a lot of those guys that were just absolute energy guys and just guys that could score at will. Unfortunately, it didn't happen versus Princeton. But Kobe Brown, congrats to him for being a first-round pick. I think he'll do well at Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, they have him. I think, do they still have Paul George? I can't remember. But, yeah, all pretty good. What did surprise me is the way Keontae Johnson and Jalen Wilson went off the board. They went off at picks 50 and 51, respectively. I thought Jalen was going to go earlier than that, to be real with you. I think Jalen is underrated as a player. I understand that, his team, he was the leader of this Kansas team last year, and they had a second-round exit against a really good Arkansas team that they shouldn't have been playing to begin with, because the NCAA doesn't know how to manage tournaments at all. I already went on my spiel about that. But, yeah, I really thought he was going to go a lot earlier. Pick 51 to the Nets, though. He's going to Jock Vaughn, who is a former Kansas player, and that's awesome. I think he'll excel there. I think Jock Vaughn will develop him really nice. I think they're very similar players, in all honesty. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Jock Vaughn will do with Jalen Wilson. All the luck to him in Brooklyn. As for Keontae Johnson, it is completely slipping my mind who he got drafted by. Let's go look. He was drafted by Oklahoma City. My apologies. I knew that. It was on the tip of my tongue, and I forgot. But yeah, Oklahoma City is a great squad. They got a lot of young talent, a lot of promise. He'll be playing with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, as well as a couple of really good younger guys, and could potentially make a big impact, depending on how well he does throughout the Summer League and potentially in the G League too, if he is put in that position. I really think he has an opportunity to be great, though, which is against all odds. I mean, 3 years ago he was completely his college career was almost derailed. His career in general was almost derailed because his life. My apologies, but his life was almost derailed because of a heart condition that he had. He collapsed on the court, and people thought he wasn't going to play again. But here he is now, getting drafted in the NBA, and that's awesome. That's a great story. I'm a Jayhawk alum myself, and I think that is an awesome story. I'm rooting for him 100%, and I think he's in a good spot with Oklahoma City. I think they don't have a whole lot of size, and I think he brings them size and scoring chances. So, good on them for picking him up. Marquise Noel was a notable undrafted guy. He signed a contract with the Toronto Raptors, so he will be joining Grady Dick up in Canada. And I think that's a great spot for him. Again, I think he's going to be learning under the tutelage of Fred VanVleet, who is a great all-star caliber guard that has a very similar playing style. They're pretty similar in size. Obviously, Marquise Noel is a little. He's 5'8". That's pretty small, and probably the main reason he went undrafted, because he's a Cousy Award winner. Again, it reminds me a lot of the Frank Mason situation, where you can earn all these accolades in college, but you still will go probably unnoticed because of your height. NBA players are. Look at the first overall pick in Victor Wembanyama. He's huge. He's almost 8 feet tall, and that being said, there's been some videos circulating of him not being able to shoot the basketball, but when you're almost 8 feet tall, NBA scouts are going to be drooling over that. When you're, a Cousy Award winner and have all these accolades but are still 5'8", not so much. But Raptors took a chance on him. I really hope that he can learn pretty well over there. In my mock draft, I compared him to John Starks, one of the greatest undrafted free agents in the NBA of all time, and also a Big 12 product out of Oklahoma State. He led a lot of really good Knicks teams, played alongside Patrick Ewing, and I can see Marquise Noel a lot in John Starks, because these are guys that score at will. These are guys that utilize their big guys, getting that assist in for the big bucket down low, and just speed guys that are very good defensively too, that are just absolute ball hawks. So I can see a lot of John Starks in Marquise Noel. Granted, I was not alive for John Starks' NBA career, but I did see some highlights. Don't worry, I've done my research. I'm a researching journalist. I do my research. It's not all just opinion, I promise. Um, but yeah, I can see John Starks in him. And all the luck to Marquise Noel because, again, another K State guy that I really, really like. So, um, in non NBA news, though, Zach Clements is back. Zach Clements is back at KU. That's right. He decommitted from UC Santa Barbara and will be re-enrolling at KU. And that's exciting. I think, Zach Clements has a lot of untapped potential. If nothing else, he could be a key depth guy to back up Hunter Dickinson and to back up Parker Braun potentially. It kind of depends on how training camp and practices go. But just adds to the Bigs depth for KU. So exciting stuff there. Not the sparkliest pickup by KU, but again, it's a depth move, and I like it, and I like Zach too because I think he's a class act guy and deserves that chance to play at a high level in Division I basketball. So that's all I got for college basketball. Let's move on to the Royals. All right, starting with the Royals. Again, newsflash, they're still bad. In fact, they are on pace for the worst record in franchise history. It's not good for a first-year manager to be on pace for the worst record in franchise history. I get it. He's a first-year manager. Cut him some slack, blah, blah, blah. It's not looking great for Matt Quatraro. And he is certainly not the only one at fault. Really, none of the coaching staff is too terribly at fault. It's the management. It's the front office. It's John Sherman. John Sherman is not willing to spend money on his players and would rather spend it on passion projects like creating the next Wrigleyville in North Kansas City. Yeah, that's the thing, apparently. Lord knows where he got that idea from. But honestly, who's going to go watch the Royals if they're this bad? I mean, it's pretty simple logic to the rest of us. I don't know how it's not simple logic to Royals ownership. Then again, it's, peak MLB ownership, selling out the fans, very reminiscent of the Oakland days, selling out the fans, making it about greed, making it about, having the best facilities. It really doesn't seem like John Sherman is the guy that is cut out to be a baseball owner. I mean, even so, even in the scope of MLB owners, a lot of them are really, really bad. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of greedy dudes that own MLB franchises. I'll just be upfront about it. But John Sherman is both greedy and without knowledge on how to run a team. I mean, frankly speaking, yeah, that's how it is. It's insulting to watch him just continue to make errors in regard to pleasing the fans, in regard to team building, in regard to getting the proper management in there, in regard to accountability. Because he's sitting here blaming the front office and blaming all the people that are not necessarily at fault. They have some fault, to be real. They do have some fault. But in the end, it all comes back to John Sherman's ineptitude. I mean, it is. And I think a lot of Royals fans recognize that, and that's why we're not supporting the team anymore. I mean, there's record low attendance numbers this year and the past year for a reason. This team sucks. No one wants to watch a crappy baseball team, and the Royals are crap. I mean, they are, and it stinks because I remember those years in 2014 and 2015 where they were really, really good, and it was exciting to watch the Royals. Even in 2016 and 2017, it was fairly exciting to watch the Royals. Like, people went to games. People were excited to go to Royals games. Now it's, okay, how much are we going to lose by today? Oh, well, may as well, tailgate, wait for Chiefs season, and suffer through baseball season. I mean, that's not how baseball season should be like. It's not. And until you improve that atmosphere, until you get rid of that apathy, that negativity that is seeping through this franchise's fan base and through the franchise in general, eh, nothing's going to change. You think people are going to want to fund a new stadium? Heck no, they're not. So why exactly is John Sherman going about this in a way that, oh yeah, no, North Kansas City, Olathe, which, by the way, I've already talked about the whole thing with the stadium being downtown but actually not being downtown. That's a dead horse that I'm not going to beat anymore. Maybe later, but not not today. I'll save you. I'll save you from it. But seriously? You really think North Kansas City taxpayers, you really think Olathe taxpayers, you really think KCK taxpayers are going to want to pay for this stadium when their team is this bad? No. So what John Sherman needs to do is see the writing on the wall and either A, sell the team, which he just bought it like what, 3 years ago? I don't see that as the solution, really. Or B, and B is the most liable option to be honest. Focus on the field product. The K can wait. The K just got renovated not all that long ago, less than a decade ago. And it's already being talked about for being torn down. No. Keep the K where it is until this team finds its footing. Because, golly, this team is terrible. Gordon Lyles got his first career MLB win. He's had 20 starts. You can't tell me. And, like, Zach Greinke literally had to apologize for how terrible the pitching has been. But the pitching's not the only issue. The bats are inconsistent. The fielding's inconsistent. They're making college-like errors out there. And the ownership's terrible. So fix it. There's easy fixes. There really are easy fixes to this problem. This Royals problem. It is not small markets anymore. That's a BS excuse now. It is. And everybody knows it. So stop pretending like it's still an excuse. Fix it. Anyway, we're going to go to a poll that covers this topic. And I asked you guys if the Royals were going to be any good in the next 5 years. The way I phrased it was, are the Royals going to be contenders within the next 5 years? I wasn't very specific. I could have meant AL Central. I could have meant World Series. Probably should have been a little bit more specific because just look at the poll. Yeah, a lot of y'all do not have a whole lot of faith in the Royals. And rightfully so. You shouldn't. This team's not. This team doesn't look like they're going to be anywhere near good within the next 5 years. there's a lot of young talent on this team, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of older talent on this team too. Well, Aroldis Chapman and Salvador Perez. That's about it. Um, but yeah, there's talent here, but the powers that be are not going to let that talent shine, and they are going to let that talent fade away until it is too late to trade them, and they're going to get traded for cash considerations like Hunter Dozier did. I mean, seriously, folks, it's at this point, and the worst part is the national media is not talking about it at all. They're all focused on the A's, which I understand. They're a California team and they're threatening to move to Las Vegas and blah blah blah. I understand that. But the Royals, yeah, they have the third worst record. So yeah, they're 2 spots out of dead last. They were dead last for a bit there. But they're no longer out of dead last. They had an even series against one of the better teams in baseball in the Rays. But even the worst teams can go on hot streaks, especially in baseball. And I think nothing of it. There's still so much that needs to be improved with this Royals franchise, and priority number one is spending money on the field product. It is, and again, everyone in the room knows it except for John Sherman. So let's hope. A lot of people said, yeah, that there's a chance, but there's a lot of apathy going on with the Royals right now, and it's sad because I love the Royals. They were my first favorite team growing up. I mean, there's pictures of me sitting behind the press conference room area uh, when I was like 4. I love this team, which is why I'm so angry that they're so bad. I mean, thank God the Chiefs are good. Otherwise, ugh, I would not be okay. I really should not let sports affect my mental health this much, but golly, it does. And the Royals are actively harming my mental health. Don Sherman, please, man, please listen to the fans. Please, I beg you. Anyway, enough about the Royals. Let's move on to Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City, still in the playoff hunt. They're 10th out of, I believe, like 15 teams in the Western Conference. Um, in the top 8, secure a playoff spot. Sporting Kansas City's 10th, and 1 point separates them from Austin FC, which is the team that's in 8th place right now. 9 and 10 are tied. I believe it's just a goal differential that's keeping Sporting Kansas City in 10th, and I can't remember who's at 9th off the top of my head. But they're still in the playoff hunt, and there's still plenty of games to be played. Now, losses are going to hurt more the farther you get into the season. So it's important that Sporting Kansas City gets wins. And last night kind of hurt because last night Sporting Kansas City lost against Chicago, who, is not all that great, which it was a very frustrating game too from what I followed of it. I was watching my buddy Kyle play for Premier Rugby Sevens in the Western Conference tournament over there. More on that later, though. But Sporting Kansas City is looking better. I mean, they are. It's a far cry from what they were in April. Believe me, they're looking a lot better. They're looking a lot more crisp. They're capitalizing on possession, and they're scoring goals finally. Last night was kind of a reversion back to their old selves. From what I saw, They controlled possession. They had a lot of good attacking opportunities. They just couldn't capitalize. And it ended up biting them in the butt, and they lost to one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. It hurts. It does. Again, they're still in the playoff hunt. Still plenty of games to be played. That's why I like the fact that soccer's a long season. There's a little bit of room for error compared to other sports. Um, but the room for error is running out very, very quickly. So Sporting Kansas City cannot have a loss like that again, in my opinion. They can still lose. Don't get me wrong. But again, losses are going to hurt more the farther you get into the season. And draws are going to start hurting too, because depending on how Austin does and all the teams above Sporting Kansas City do, that might take a toll. To where you don't control your own destiny, and the chances of you getting in the playoffs are hinged on teams like Austin, teams like, let's just look at the table here, in all honesty. I mean, I can just look at the table here and see what we got going on. Gosh, if y'all watched, did y'all watch that World Series game? Florida and LSU, the College World Series? 24-4. What's with these baseball teams and just having absolutely insane offense? I'm getting the table pulled up right now. My apologies. Western Conference. Okay, so I may have fibbed a little. Sporting Kansas City's 11th now, behind Portland by, I believe, 1 point. And then they're behind Austin by 4. It's still manageable. Again, still manageable. It's still a very airtight race. But yeah, just there's not a whole lot of room for error left. Currently, Portland, Vancouver, and Austin are all three ahead of Sporting for that final playoff spot. Um, there's more than likely going to have to be some slip ups along the way for Austin, Vancouver, and Portland. Sporting's beaten Portland and Vancouver. They've also beaten Austin too. So we know that this team is playoff capable. The question is, can the cards fall in their favor to where they do, in fact, make the playoffs? And can they have the wins to make the playoffs? And that's the biggest question with Sporting Kansas City as we know it right now. If you don't know, playoffs start in, I believe, September. So there's a lot of time. There is. We're only halfway through the season. We haven't even hit the MLS All-Star break yet. But time's ticking. So Sporting's better than what they were, but they still got a ways to go. So we'll see what happens. All right. Moving on to the other soccer team that plays in Kansas City, the Kansas City Current. Had a big dub yesterday. Big dub. Really just a bounce back dub, in all honesty. They beat, I believe, Orlando. Yes, Orlando. By a pretty healthy margin, if I remember correctly. I think it was 3-1. From what I saw. We'll have a look. But yeah, just good win altogether for the Current. Schedule. Sorry. But they're 4-0-9, and they're 11th in the NWSL, and they have Portland next. Okay, so they only won 2-1, but that's still solid. Top 6 in the NWSL make the playoffs. Kansas City is currently dead last. No pun intended. Dead last in the Oh, no, nope. Chicago is below Kansas City. My apologies. Um, but they're 11th out of 12, and I have some work to do. Their games back, they are 8 points back of that final playoff spot, and they got some work to do. I believe the playoffs start right around the time the MLS playoffs start. So again, there's time, but games are going to get more crucial. Um, Again, top six make playoffs. It's different from the MLS, where the top eight make playoffs. The top six do in the NWSL, and there's a chance, but they're going to have a pretty significant bounce back. That being said, the current right around this time last year had a historic bounce back, just going on a streak of wins. If you don't remember, it was the longest streak ever in the NWSL. WSL is young, but I believe it was like a streak of like 6 wins, 7 wins. So that's big. If they can go on a bounce back like that and just keep winning, then that would do wonders for their playoff hopes. They're still alive, but they're barely breathing. And there's going to be a lot that needs to improve if this current team has any shot at playoffs. They're going to need to improve on the chemistry. They're going to need to improve on the defense. Goalkeeping is going to need to improve as well. The offense, it's fine, but they're a lot like Sporting Kansas City. They're kind of inconsistent with their goal scoring. They have possession, they just don't have the goal scoring. So that's going to need to change in order for the Current to bounce back. But this is a good win. This is a good win against a good Orlando team. So they face the first place Portland Thorns on Saturday, July 1st. And the Portland Thorns are the team that beat them in the NWSL Championship, so I'm sure they're looking to get revenge. We'll see what happens. Last time they played Portland, I believe they lost like 3-0. So it's gonna be, put up or shut up for this next matchup. So we'll see how the Current do. Diving on in to some Blues news now. Uh, if you haven't been paying attention to the Blues news as of late, our very own Kyle Renner got selected to play for the Rocky Mountain Experts of the Premier Rugby Sevens League. That is the highest level of Rugby Sevens play outside of international competition. And it gets you noticed in the international competition in regard to the international competition. It's major league, it's professional. You get paid. Not a ton, but you get paid. And you get to be on TV. I got to watch, one of my good buddies on TV. It was cool. Congrats to Kyle, though, because the Rocky Mountain Experts won the Western Conference in PR7s this past Saturday with a big tournament win over the Golden State Retrievers. I believe they won by one try. I believe it was 17-12 was the final score. And Kyle Renner got some PT in that first couple of games. So congrats to him. Get noticed, my man. Have fun out there and return home with some good sevens knowledge because the Blue Sevens are also in action too. And the Blues also came back with some hardware. Third place for the Blues qualifier side in the Iowa City qualifier. Third place, medaling does earn you some points in regards to making nationals. So good on them for picking that up. I know we were missing a lot of guys due to injury or due to PR7s like Kyle Renner. And, having kind of that ragtag group of qualifier guys ended up working out really well because they did place third. And for that group to place third in a tournament that is a qualifier is really impressive. So congrats to Gavin Kirk, Dalton Humphrey, JT Bergner, Ryan Ellison, um, Jacob Hurl, Eli Brizendine, and all the other guys on that team. You all did awesome. Ahmed Burrow, y'all did great. Congrats on the third place finish. Next for the Blues is a tournament in Lincoln this coming weekend, July 1st. We're going to go up and see our old coach Derek Pearson again. Shout out to him. He's invited us out to Lincoln for a little scrap. And a chance at some hardware as well up in Lincoln for that tournament, sevens tournament. I believe we're taking 2 teams, so it should be a great time. I'm really excited. I'm hoping that I can go and that my full-time job will let me go. Please, 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 let me go play rugby with my friends. That would be really exciting. I haven't gotten the chance to all year. Please. But if I don't go this weekend, I will be attending next weekend or the weekend after next, depending on how you phrase it, I guess. I don't know. Um, but next weekend, the weekend after Lincoln, we're going to be having a tournament in Kansas City. Yeah, that's right. We're going to be having a tournament out at Heritage Park. That's going to be July 7th is when that tournament will be, July 7th and 8th. So look for that on Blue social media. Just directions on how to get there, what all that's going to entail. It's going to be a really fun tournament. We always throw a big party. Um, with the Kansas City Blues in our tournaments. It's always a great time. And we're looking to make the home crowd proud this upcoming tournament in Kansas City. So if you can make it out there, by all means, please do so. It's going to be a great time. So enough about the Blues. Let's move on to the Chiefs. All right, a few things to talk about with the Chiefs here. Big the elephant in the room. Is the Chris Jones extension going to happen? All signs point to yes. Um, and I know a lot of people are kind of pointing to, well, he hasn't signed yet, so what makes us think that he's going to sign now? A lot of teams don't release guys or don't trade guys post draft. A lot of that doesn't happen. A lot of the free agents that are already available are guys that got released pre-draft or got released like right after the draft. So I wouldn't think too much of that. But not only that, a lot of sources have kind of confirmed that a deal is going to get done between now and the beginning of training camp. Beginning of training camp, by the way, is at the end of July, or like middle end of July. So it's coming up, and again, all signs point to Chris Jones signing an extension. I've heard nothing but good things in regards to that front, even from Chris Jones himself. I mean, he's kind of hinted at it on Twitter and his social medias that he is going to be coming back to the Chiefs. I mean, he's proclaimed that he's a Chief for life multiple times, and I just don't see why he would leave and why the Chiefs would let him leave, better yet. He does have one more year, so he is in a contract year. So technically, they could franchise tag him. I really, 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 really don't want that. I want a deal to get done. I want an extension to get done so we have the potential to, sign other players and, create some cap space out of it. But it's going to happen, folks. I knock on wood that I'm, not wrong, but all signs point that it's going to happen within the next couple of weeks. So just have some patience. We got to play the waiting game. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors. We never will unless we are part of the Chiefs front office, which, you know, I don't think any of us that watch this show or participate in this show are part of the Chiefs front office. If you are, hit me up. I'd love to get an interview. Please. Thank you. Um, but, some looming questions going into training camp. That's obviously the biggest one. Um, Another couple ones are like, what's the wide receiver room going to look like? There's a lot of competition there. A lot of people are saying, well, the wide receiver room, it's going to be our biggest weakness this year, and blah blah blah. There's too much, inexperience. There's too much guys that have already had their shot and just like haven't shown it, and blah 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 blah. There's a lot of negativity surrounding it. In all honesty, you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. He's going to make any receiver look good. Honestly, he's going to make any receiver look good. As long as you are a competent receiver, the sky's the limit for you when you have Patrick Mahomes. Am I saying that, oh, we have the best wide receiver room in the entire NFL? Heck no. And far from it. Honestly, far from it. But it's certainly not the worst. And with the amount of ceiling that this wide receiver room has, that's what Brett Veach is looking for. Because as we've discussed before, Brett Veach is playing the long game. And what he's doing with this wide receiver room is providing youth and is providing guys that, may have not had an opportunity to succeed in that system that they were originally in, a chance to succeed. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, we got a great deal for Juju, even though he didn't play all that well last year. He played pretty average, but we still got a great deal out of it and got a lot of money for him. So, by all means, Patriots, take him. But yeah, it's definitely an atmosphere of there's a lot of questions that have already been answered. There's a lot of questions that don't really have any evidence backing them. Um, Guys, we just need to trust in Brett Veach. I mean, this fan base just needs to trust in the work that this front office and that this management has done to win multiple Super Bowls and to go to multiple Super Bowls, to go to multiple AFC championships. I mean, it's not just Patrick Mahomes. It's Brett Veach. It's Andy Reid. It's Travis Kelce. It's, Eric Bieniemy. It's all these pieces coming together. And yeah, I know Eric Bieniemy's gone and, Matt Nagy is now the offensive coordinator, whatever. But Nagy was still a good offensive coordinator. He was Patrick Mahomes' first offensive coordinator. And there's a great relationship there. So I don't see us taking a step back offensively. I really don't. I would be very surprised if we do. And not only that, even if we do, our defense is going to take I cannot talk today. I apologize. Is going to take a tremendous step forward. They are. Because with the additions of Drew Tranquill, Charles Omenihu, with in all likelihood, re-signing of Chris Jones, and the experience that this young secondary group got, I mean, this defense is going to be really, really good, and they're really underrated right now. A lot of people are looking at this Chiefs defense and saying, well, there's no big names. There's no, yeah, you got Chris Jones, but there's no Aaron Donald. There's no, Joey Bosa. There's no this. There's no that. There's no stars. Bull honky. L'Jarius needs a great corner. Trent McDuffie is a great corner. The one thing that I was taught throughout my years in football is if a corner's name doesn't get mentioned, he's probably doing a good job. That or he's just not intercepting. I don't know. If a corner's not being mentioned, he's more than likely doing a good job, unless he's just getting picks after picks after picks. Which, Trent McDuffie didn't, but Trent McDuffie also was one of the best rookie corners in the game. And that's coming from, a class that had Sauce Gardner, Tariq Woolen, and all those guys. So the Chiefs are going to be fine. And the people just need to trust in Brett Beach and trust in his abilities as a GM, Andy Reid's abilities as a head coach, and Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. So the pieces are there. It's just a matter of maintaining that dynasty. And maintaining is what exactly they're doing by playing the long game with the Chiefs. So I'm all for it. I really don't think that there needs to be all these questions surrounding the Chiefs regarding training camp. I think it's a very similar vibe to last year. Honestly, I think last year was a lot worse, but I mean, we ended up winning the Super Bowl. So, you know, trust in Beach, please. Okay. In my opinion, this is the topic of the week. Um, and that is the topic of the KU football renovations war that's going on right now all over social media regarding the first renderings of the KU football stadium and how that stadium is going to come into being. Holy cow, there was a firestorm on Twitter. So let's just start with the news portion of this. So KU football released their newest renderings of the renovations that are going to happen to David Booth Memorial Stadium. The outside consultant originally said that the stadium was going to be downsizing to about 40,000. I originally commended that move. I think it's a good move. Is it a lot of seats to downsize to? Yeah, but the offering of better premium seating, the more incentive for those low tier donors to give more into, invest in this football program. I think it's a good idea and I commended it. Again, do I think it's a lot of seats? Yeah. I think right now it's at like 45,000 for KU football, but the stadium's kind of a trash heap. I'm not gonna lie. Again, Jayhawk alum speaking here. KU athletics alum speaking here. David Booth is not the best stadium in the whole wide world. It's not. It's gray. It's ugly. I don't like the fact that it's really small. I'll admit it. I don't like the fact that it's really small. I know that I commended the whole downsizing thing. But, according to athletic director Travis Goff, the outside consultant was wrong. They're going to be upgrading the seating and they're going to be increasing the stadium, which isn't a bad plan. But I would like to see the more additions to that premium seating. In all honesty, I think that incentivizes low tier donors. I think that incentivizes more season ticket holders. It makes the stadium look better. In all honesty, to like recruits and everything, it makes the stadium look fuller. It makes the stadium look like it is a football stadium for a good team. Something that KU has not had in a long time. I mean, yeah, 2 sellouts last year is really, really cool, and it's a sign of good things to come, but it's 2 sellouts. Alabama's been selling out since Nick Saban first got hired there, and probably before that, in all honesty. If you're going to get on the level of Alabama, of Texas, of Oklahoma, etc., you gotta incentivize the season ticket holders. You gotta incentivize the low tier donors. into opting into this thing that you're building. It's a lot like investors. You build it and they will come. Uh, and when you have great facilities, that attracts more donors, in my opinion. You can have as big of a stadium as you want, but if it's a trash heap, people aren't going to want to go. And I'm not saying like, oh, like, they're just going to increase the seats and just leave the booth as is. They're not. They're going to make, renovations, etc. And by the way, those first renderings, man, it does not look like there's any parking. um, so I hope that that's not the case, because booth parking already is a nightmare. It really incentivizes people to walk. Let's just say that. But yeah, I think there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, they're the first renderings to happen, and I think there's a lot of speculation regarding them, and there's a lot of work to be done before any more talk of what's going into the stadium itself can happen. Now, we're going to get into the opinion part. These are other people's opinions. These are not my opinions. I will give my opinion, but these are other people's opinions. So bear with me here. Some of them can sound kind of dumb. I'm not going to lie. Some of them can sound kind of dumb. But they're opinions. What's that old saying about, opinions are like, should I even say it? I think a lot of people actually know the saying, everybody has one, but no one wants to hear or see it. I think you can refer to context clues for that one, because I don't allow cussing on my show. This is a Christian sports channel. Please. Um, I digress. I apologize. But let's get into some very heated opinions regarding not really the renderings of the stadium. That's pretty tame compared to how the stadium's going to be paid for. So there were speculations. There's speculation. You have to understand, the university is allowed to be as transparent as they want to be regarding the use of public funds to fund these stadium renovations. I don't like it any more than you guys do over there on KState Twitter. Um, Boy, howdy, KState Twitter was up in arms about this whole thing. I mean, there were people that were saying K-State doesn't use any public funds to fund anything. How dare KU use public funds to fund an athletics venture? How dare they? K-State athletics would never. Our athletic director would never. Newsflash, your athletic director probably has, for one. And two, there's no guarantees that public funds are going to be the primary source of funding this anyway. That being said, there's a grand total of 3, and I've done my research. This is from, I can't remember what the website is. It's like the College Board of Trustees and Alumni or something like that. There's a grand total of 3 schools in the entire Division 1 athletics, in the entirety of Division 1 athletics. 3 schools that do not use public funds. They're all private. Can you guess what they are? Tulane, Navy, BYU. Which is crazy because, like, Navy doesn't use public funds? That's sick. That's crazy. Like, how? How? You're literally the military. This, well, let me clarify that. I don't know if it was actually Navy or not. Let me clarify that. 4, Athletics. Wow. Oh, hold on now. Hold on. I gotta pull up the source itself. Oh lordy, lordy, where is it? Okay, hold on. I will go to my website actually and look this up. My apologies for the delay here. I'm going as fast as I can, I promise. There we go. All right, let's go here. Okay. Okay. American Council of Trustees and Alumni states that most NCAA Division One athletics departments take subsidies from the government. Just 23 of all 228 NCAA Division One schools generated enough money on their own to cover their own expenses in 2012. Okay, so this was back in 2012, by the way. LSU, Nebraska, Ohio State, Penn State, Purdue, and Texas were the only schools. So there were like 7. Sorry, I thought there were 3. My apologies for the misinformation, but I fact checked myself because you know what? I have some integrity. I appreciate you recognizing that I have integrity. Um, but yeah, 7 schools. And again, this was back in 2012. But does anyone really think that's improved? Does anyone really think that that's improved? And notice most of those schools are schools that have really, really good athletics programs. Athletics programs that put butts in seats. And yeah, Kansas State puts butts in seats, but they weren't on that list. That means they take subsidies. That means the Kansas State people are lying to you, and you should probably check yourself before you make any false claims. Because it is a false claim. I mean, as far as my research has dignified, stating Kansas State has not used public funds to fund any athletics ventures is an outright lie. And I think your athletics department needs to be a bit more transparent with you in regard to how they phrase things, because I've seen, quotes saying like, well, here's the proof right here that we don't use public funds. And it's some quote from like 1998 that's like, oh, we haven't used public funds to fund, any athletics. And it's something really specific too, if I remember correctly. It's like athletics buildings or something like that. Just because they haven't funded any athletics buildings doesn't mean that they haven't funded the athletics department in general. And another statistic that I saw today was that even if KU took the subsidies that they're talking about taking, they would still be putting over $1 billion more towards academics and other programs and other university programs than Kansas State would. I think it is absolutely ridiculous that Kansas State people are up in arms over this. And Travis Goff, the AD at KU, yeah, he had a pretty snarky response to it, offering season tickets to the K-State people that were complaining. Wow, that's a savage move. Really, honestly, I'm really not trying to be a KU homer, but that was awesome. But I mean, he was fully transparent about it. He was fully transparent about it. He said, yes, we are using public funds to fund these renovations, but who doesn't? Number two, we have been fully transparent throughout this entire process and still give a ton of money to academic ventures. The university does. Um, sorry, there was a cop that passed by my window. Hopefully y'all didn't hear that. Sounded like that was right outside my window. That was scary. Um, Nothing's happening. It sounds like they're going down that way. I digress. But it. And then the third thing was that there are going to be a lot of private donations going towards this. In fact, they're encouraging private donations to go towards these football renovations by engaging in NIL, by engaging with the low tier, donors that are on the fence about being season ticket holders. It's really cheap to be a season ticket holder for KU right now. Really cheap. I'm thinking about getting some, and in all honesty, I probably will. Um, Depending on certain circumstances, I am still paying for school. Um, Grad school's great, let me tell you. It's great. It's awesome. Yeah, yeah. It'll be worth it in the end. It's just a lot of money. But I can't believe this is a discussion. I can't believe that K-State people are actually believing something that can be completely debunked with 10 minutes worth of research. Go look at Axios polls. Go look at American, Council of Trustees and Alum. Go look at numbers before you go spouting off about how bad KU is and how evil this project is. Do I agree that universities should be much more transparent when it comes to the use of public funds, or university athletics departments rather? Absolutely. But I think KU is being incredibly transparent. The AD literally came out on Twitter and said, hey, we are using public funds for these renovations, but this is business as usual for universities. So, and again, academics are being funded. Academics are being promoted by the athletic department to be funded. NIL money goes towards academics as well as athletics. So please do your research. And I'll end the show with this, because we're running pretty short on time. Research and education. Being in a state where you are constantly learning and constantly keeping an open mind and constantly questioning is one of the healthiest states that you can be in. Now, questioning as in okay, what's behind this? Why? How? Not, oh God, am I doing my life right? That's called anxiety, and that needs therapy. I have it too. We all do. But yeah, if you got it too much, please go see someone. Please talk to someone. After that whole thing, yeah, just strive to learn. I'll end the show with that, because this segment has almost been 20 minutes long. That's our show. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for tuning in and bearing with me as I, work my way through Father's Day and all the sorts of stuff I have on my plate. I promise I work my hardest to put the best product out possible for you guys. You all deserve it. Thank you very much for being supporters of my show, supporters of my website, supporters of my writings. and just being there. I really appreciate it. So, feeling in a little bit of a sentimental mood. I saw some old friends today, which was really nice. Shout out to Will, Kigo, and Jared. I'm glad I got to see you guys today. So, thank you very much for watching. This is the Burn KC signing off. I will see you guys next Sunday. Thanks.